Welcome, Reds, to the 100% United podcast. I'm your host, TC. Here's my co-host, Scott. Hello, Scott. How are you?
Well, Happy New Year to you, TC.
Yeah.
Would be better with some better performances, but it's just more of the same now, isn't it?
It is. We did a double bubble over Christmas, 2 wins in a row, and we did a double bubble here after the Arsenal game. We pretty much knew we weren't going to get anything out of the Wolves game. Look, today's show, we reflect on 2 subpar performances, really. Rolled over by Arsenal at the Emirates before a 0-0 draw at Molineux in the FA Cup. We look forward to the double header with City in the EFL Cup 2. We'll start with that worrying display last week. 2-0 losers to Arsenal. The manner of the loss, though, Scott, wasn't great either, was it?
No, I think, when the teams came out and you saw that they had David Luiz and Socrates as their centre-backs, you think, oh, here we go. We can maybe at least score a couple of goals here. And to not score a goal, I'm sort of coming to grips with that and coming to accept that more and more. But just the manner of the sloppiness and the tired, I don't know. You can sort of accept that the players are a little bit tired from this holiday period, but there was just no desire. And yeah, it's...
Would I be fair to say we got out-muscled by Arsenal, Scott?
Yeah, out-desired, out-muscled, outran.
And if there's one club you don't want to do that against, if there's one club, because where does that put us? If we're a lower level than Arsenal in terms of desire and muscle and
grit
and physical, grit, desire, physical determination. If we're below Arsenal, God, where are we going?
Yeah, we had a little bit of time to prepare for it because we had less grit, less physicality, less hunger, less desire, less passion than Watford a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's just more of the same.
We should have been fresh, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we should just be used to this, and we should be able to pick out positives out of. It's depressing now, and you can sort of see that Arsenal are riding the wave that we did last year when Ole first came in, but...
I wouldn't say the wave's they're kind of riding a wave, but they hadn't won under Arteta before they beat us, had they?
No, they hadn't. You're right.
No, and the truth is, Scott, is that they had a good performance against Chelsea. Look, I'm not slagging Arsenal off in terms of Arteta. He seems to be doing some good things, but they played pretty well against Chelsea, and they ran out of gas at the end. It was pretty obvious. But then for us to be looking like we're the jaded ones against an Arsenal team that runs out of gas all the time, and then it's not like our team's going around, causing havoc for everyone. I mean, why are we so tired? Well, I mean, we discussed it in a pod, last pod or the pod before, why we're so tired, because we're playing the same players every blooming week. But,
lack of squad depth.
Oh, yeah. Look, Scott, let's do the lineup, and the omission from the lineup as well as the lineup was very interesting, of course. So we had David De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka on the right, Lindelof and Maguire as centre-backs. Of course they were.
Again.
Yeah. Shaw at left-back. Looked like 2 of them at left-back, if I'm honest, size-wise. Fred and Matic in midfield. Lingard in the number 10 position. I mean, if you want to call it that. James on the right. Martial up top. Rashford on the left. First things first, Scott. Paul Pogba ruled out. So he missed the Burnley game because he couldn't play 2 games in a row, remember?
Yep.
And then suddenly now he's got an injury so dire that he has to have an operation and he's out for the best part of another month on top of, 4 months already, Scott? I mean, this is worrying stuff. What did you make of Ollie's comments? I found them...
Well, you say 4 months. I would go back to last, maybe March, April, since he's just been stinking the place out. So The injury is at least a way to keep him off the field. And at least it's a reason and why he's not being dropped. Because when he has played, he hasn't put in the effort.
Let's pick the bones out of this, Scott, because it seemed pretty clear to me from what Ollie said. Look, we all know that you can have an accumulative injury where there's a problem in your foot or whatever it might be, and at some stage in time you're going to have a clear-up operation. It's going to be good for your long-term career to go in there, arthroscopy. Keyhole surgery, effectively, clear it out. Not a massive amount of time out, but for the long-term benefit of the player, it is a good thing to do.
Yeah, you're right. It would have been a great thing to do over the summer if he didn't have all these Adidas commitments going to China, spending 2 weeks there. It would have been great for him to do over the summer, yeah.
Well, this is what I'm saying, Scott, because what's happened here is that Solskjaer gave it away in his first press conference. He said that he does need to have an operation. I do believe, Ollie, I do believe that's true, but he doesn't have to have an operation now. He doesn't. It's one of those ones where you can have it in the summer, you can have it after the Euros, if he even gets selected. What Ollie communicated to us is that he's basically said, I'm going to do the operation now because I want to. And I know you need me. I know Scott McTominay's out injured, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what Ollie communicated first time. And then he backtracked and started feeding us a load of nonsense.
Well, again, first time he said he contacted his people.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Scott, I'm going to have to pick up on this, and and Ollie's going to get a bit of a battering today because the stuff he's been saying the last few days is mental. But I mean, the stuff he was saying about Paul Pogba and the operation, and then he said, "Oh, maybe it was my bad English." Now, there's one thing that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't had for a couple of decades. His English is fantastic.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, the minor nuances of the language he's got down to a T. So don't belittle yourself, Ollie, and say my bad English because we're not buying it. We know it's not true.
He was fluent 20 years ago.
He's got a Manchester accent.
Yeah, it's like me saying in America that there's a lost in translation between English and American. It's ridiculous.
You only do it when you messed up, right? And you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole.
Of course. Yeah.
So look, it was a load of nonsense. We don't know what's going on again. As I said, he's going to be back for 2 games. Didn't I say that? I said at the start of December, he said he'll come back for 2 games.
Yeah, he did.
And then he'll disappear again. So, look, let's not make this the Paul Pogba show.
Again.
Well, I mean, the sooner he goes, the better now. But look, Ollie said we started the game well, but we conceded after 8 minutes. So, I mean, it wasn't for too long, was it?
Yeah, we started it great, didn't we?
Come on. Absolutely fantastic.
You know, the worst thing is that for about 15 years, Sir Alex Ferguson made the blueprint of how to beat Arsenal, right? You sit back, you let them come at you, and then you hit them on the break. And we've beaten them how many times at the Emirates or at Highbury playing those tactics. And here we are. The last few weeks we're saying that's the only way we can win a big game these days. You know, we go away at City. We have such little possession, but we hit them on the break. And so this game sort of played into our tactics. And if this was one game we could exercise those tactics, it would be perfect. But yeah, to just give a half-assed performance, it's pathetic.
Unfortunately, Scott, Arteta was too savvy. Klopp and Pep Guardiola, you know, they come with a bit of arrogance when they play against us. I suggest Pep might not this week. But in general, they come with a bit of arrogance. Whereas Arteta he was more than happy to let Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw and Matic ping it around at the back. And, you know, you boys fill your boots. You know, if you want to blooming pass to each other and take however many seconds to launch an attack, let us get in our zone, let us get all nice and tight. It did look as if Arteta, they got their 2 goals up, which obviously benefited them massively in terms of tactics. And then they just sat off and said, you boys do what you want, have all the possession, you go for it. Because we dominated the possession again, Scott. At the Emirates, we had more possession than they did.
Yeah, but how much of that possession was us just the defenders passing it to each other?
How much of the possession, Scott, was Harry Maguire just standing there with the ball at his feet?
Yeah.
I mean, how many seconds was that? I mean, let me know, this is becoming a new thing, isn't it? I mean, You talked about Pogba being our quarterback. I know you like the American sports too, but now we've got a quarterback who's even further back, and he's not fit for purpose. He shouldn't be a quarterback. He should be the guy feeding the quarterback. Mm-hmm. But that's what's happening now. Maguire has taken over the Pogba quarterback position in that left withdrawn midfield zone, and it's not working, Scott.
No, and it hasn't for a while.
No.
It hasn't for a while.
And so the Pepe goal, Harry Maguire played him on as well. Yep. He played him onside. Ollie said it was really unlucky, the goal. Took a deflection off Lindelof. Straight to Pepe. What a load of bad luck, eh? Yeah. Nothing he could do about it.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, oh, God, the second goal wasn't much better. I mean, the second was way worse, wasn't it? Arsenal had 1 corner against us, and they scored from it.
Yep.
Near post flick. Awful defending at the near post. I mean, I don't know what Ollie was talking about in the after-match interview. He said it was a fantastic save from De Gea. It was a crap save from De Gea. It was straight at him, and it was awful goalkeeping. I don't care what it deflected off or whatever. It was bobbing. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, again. Yeah. To be in, as much as we love his positivity and as much as we love the atmosphere that he brings to the training ground and to the whole club, you've got to be able to be critical in that position, right? It's one of the most coveted managerial positions in the entire world. And you've got to be able to be critical, and you've got to be able to say the truth and not just say, yeah, it was all right, better luck next time, and it was just a bit unlucky, and we're still riding this wave of unluckiness, and it's soured now, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's getting hard for us to swallow now, because we're seeing through the nonsense. But we will touch on that. Obviously, Robin van Persie and Rio Ferdinand were quite critical after the game. Just first of all, let's touch on a few of the stats and whatnot, and what exactly went on. Like I said, we did dominate possession, 51-49, 10 shots each, 4 shots on targets each. As I say, 1 corner for them, 4 for us. We might as well not even bother with corners. 11 fouls to them, 15 to us. One thing I will say, Scott, is I did have a look at the stats in terms of what we're up to, because it seems to me that we are taking a hell of a lot of shots from long range, and not just when there's no other options on. It seems that I can see people doing making runs, people offering themselves, and we're still having a dig from range.
Yep.
So I had a look at the stats. 48% of our shots, Scott, come from outside the box. I mean, that is a ridiculously high amount. Liverpool have got 28%, City 31%, just for comparison. It does seem that we, when we do have a shot, and we do have a shot on target, it's from blooming 30, 35 yards.
And I wonder how many of those are pretty speculative Marcus Rashford shots when just he seems to just cut inside and have a dig from 35 yards.
Exactly. And actually, when he did it against he had options, didn't he? He had options when he had that dig.
To be honest, I think the thing that Rio and RVP were most critical about was the fact that runs were being made. It wasn't as though Rashford and Martial and Danny James were up there completely stagnant. They were trying to get in behind, they were trying to cut inside from the wing and etc. And they just weren't being found time and time and time again.
Yeah.
And the criticism that gets you the most is usually the most honest and usually the most true.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why Ole reacted as he did, because they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That there's nothing he can really do. You can stick Jesse Lingard in the number 10 position and try and connect all the dots, but he's not good enough to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to play a number 10, do we? We can play two box-to-box midfielders and play a holding midfield like we did when Ole was doing so well in the interim period. Just to finish off those stats, Scott, we're 9th in the league for shots inside the box, which is very low, obviously. Inside the 18-yard box, that's 46% of our shots come there. Liverpool 63%, City 58%. So again, we got the possession problem, but we also have this problem where we have a group of players who want to take digs from long range, and they're not actually that good at shooting from long range. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we talked about you talked about Maguire and people trying to pick runs. One thing I will say, I know Rio was talking. When Rio first came to the club, he was criticised by a number of fans for taking too many risks. Remember, holding the ball too much, etc., etc. But the thing is, and the same, I use Ronaldo as an example as well. When he used to always dribble at people, it became a bit easy to negate. The best players, what they do is they vary it up. You don't know what they're going to do. So when Rio got on the ball, you don't know if he might ping it straight into the midfielder's feet really quickly. He might dribble, he might play a long pass, he might play it to the fullback. You don't know what he's going to do. At the moment, I think that's the problem we've got. Arteta knew exactly what we were going to do. He knew what Maguire was going to do. He knew what Lindelof was going to do. And the problem is we've got two, in inverted commas, ball-playing centre-backs, and other teams are quite happy for them to play the ball.
Yeah, well, it was a lot easier in Rio's day because he wasn't the main fulcrum of attack.
No.
Right? We had 6 other players who were responsible for building up attacks and what have you. He was way down the list. So when it came his time, no one was really expecting him to do it. The problem we have is that that's our number one way of building attacks. And so they just sit back and they mark everybody and they prepare for it. We're so predictable and so one-dimensional that it's so easy to play against us that I don't know. I was shocked we didn't get beat at Wolves.
Yeah, me too, Scott. Let's hit on the RVP criticism. He said that he would like to see a bit more bite from Ole. He said it's not the match to be coming in after the game, smiling and laughing. Don't forget Van Persie played for Arsenal and United. Mm-hmm. So he knows both clubs very, very well. What do you make of it in terms of, let's start with the RVP criticism, then we'll go to the Ole riposte after.
I think he was 100% correct.
Well, I tell you what, before Van Persie came out and you saw that interview, what were you feeling?
I was terribly disappointed. Awful. I thought it was one of the worst performances we had of the season. But I was expecting Ole to come out all smiles, and I was preparing to accept it. And as soon as RVP said that, I was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. At least one game you don't have to come out all smiles. Like, we got beat at Newcastle and he came out with a big smile on his face saying there were some positives from the game. We just got beat at Newcastle. And it would just be nice for him. I think that RVP is exactly right. And in order for people to be fantastically successful at their job, they have to have a bit of bite about them. Mm-hmm. I think he's spot on.
I did too. I found Ole's riposte to Van Persie very, very strange, actually. I don't know what he was talking about. I mean, he was talking about Van Persie took his number 20 shirt off him. He looked like he was very sad about that too. I mean, he didn't take it directly off, and there's a few players have worn it since. It's not his 20 shirt, it's Manchester United's 20 shirt. And he was saying that that's all he's going to take from me. What was he talking about?
I think he was actually trying to show that bite that Van Persie was wanting.
You know, but this is my point, right? So after a game when you lose to Arsenal, you can't be moody. But then when Van Persie says you're not doing the right job as a manager, then you show your blooming fists up.
I think so.
Weird, right?
I think if anything, he probably thought, he's actually right. Like, what am I doing on there smiling? I can't go and say, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have been smiling. He has to react in a way that shows that he's got that bite that RVP and everyone else is now coming to think that he doesn't have.
Is that why he was also coming off his bench more at Wolves, or is that because everyone's complaining about that too?
Before we say it, there is a clip of him. He looks like a child looking over his neighbour's shoulder on a test when he's looking at Arteta's tactics, when he's giving out the tactics, then he sort of starts copying them as well. It was quite embarrassing.
It is embarrassing when you're saying this, Scott. I've got my fingers poked into my eyes because I don't want to hear it, but it's true. It's shocking.
Poke your fingers in your ears if you can't hear it.
Yeah, well, I'm not that clever, am I?
You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, we've in the day and age that everything is recorded, we got completely caught, and we're just made to look like complete knobs.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it was awful. It was embarrassing going to Arsenal, getting turned over like that. And like I say, the fallout from it. Well, before it was embarrassing with Pogba. After it's embarrassing with Van Persie and Ole fighting. I mean, what I would say is a pundit is allowed to criticise a manager's style, isn't he? You don't have to know them personally.
Of course they are.
And Ollie was saying he doesn't know me personally, so I don't think he can criticise my managerial style, etc., etc. But yeah, it was all very weird. It wasn't one of Ollie's greatest moments at all, was it?
No, I think the cracks are starting to show. And I think, honestly, I used to laugh about it and send you side-by-side comparisons of when we hired Moyes compared to when he got sacked and how he had aged about 50 years in the middle. And honestly, if you look at photos of Ollie from a year ago to now, half his head is completely grey now, and he's showing signs of aging and cracking, and it's really tough.
And he looks like he's going bald as well in that.
All right, don't have a go.
When he was left the conference. No, what he did when he left the press conference, he did he said, "I'm not in medieval times," with a wink, and he looked like he was. But the sad thing is with Moyes, it was like, look, he was a hired gun. No problems, get out. See you later. We'll take the piss out of you for eternity. No worries.
Yeah.
With Ollie, it actually breaks our hearts, doesn't it? We never wanted to see this. You've got a picture of him up on your wall. We sang about him. I mean, I can't tell you, in Old Trafford back in the day, even with the glory years, when an Ollie song started being sung, we all went mental. It got us going. People outside the club don't understand how much we love Ollie. And so this is way, way, way more painful than anything we can describe when we talk about David Moyes and that 9 months from hell.
Of course, I mean, you just need to see that he's got a banner hanging up in the Stretford end right next to Paul Scholes'.
Yeah.
But there are very few players who have banners 20 years after they've retired.
Well, there's very few players who have a song, mate. He's got 4, 5. Yeah. I mean, they keep on, depends on the week, but it's a sad time at the moment, really, and unfortunately going into the Wolves game, the FA Cup tie, after that performance at the Emirates, the majority of United fans weren't going to Molineux with much hope, were they? 3 games, no wins in Ollie's tenure prior to this game.
Yeah, and 3 times going to Molineux and losing as well, don't forget.
Yeah. Let's look at the lineup. Sergio Romero, back in between the sticks. Ashley Young right back. Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire centre back. I don't even know why I bother saying it anymore.
Yeah.
We just might as well say our centre backs. Brandon Williams out on the left. Pereira, Matic in midfield. Juan Mata in the number 10 role. Danny James out on the right. Mason Greenwood and Teeth Chong. Obviously, they were a bit interchangeable. It seemed like no one was playing number 9, didn't it?
Yeah, and I was going to say that's a problem why we're shooting from long range so much. We don't have an orthodox striker. We don't have someone who's in the box as much as, say, Lukaku was last year or as Zlatan was a few years ago. So it's sometimes our only option. For the record, if there was a man of the match for the Arsenal game, it probably would have been Fred.
Yes. Oh, okay, Scott, I missed that one.
I know, but just in case, if you're writing them down.
I totally agree with you. It is Fred. It was totally Fred. He was absolutely superb, wasn't he?
Apart from the free kick at the end.
Oh my God. Wasn't it so bad?
Well, he's been watching Rashford smack him over for 4 months. So
What on earth is wrong with our set pieces, Scott? I mean, we can't take a corner, we can't take a free kick.
Can't take penalties.
And then you concede from the one corner you have against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Mental. But you're right, Scott. Yeah, spot on again. Fred, man of the match. Well done. So look, we had this lineup against Wolves. As I say, there was just no presence up front whatsoever, was there? It was crackers.
Yeah.
I don't know what the tactics were.
Yeah, and remember a few weeks ago, Ole came out and said that Mason's the most natural striker we have. He's the best finisher he's ever seen, blah, blah, blah. And you're right, for him to have a game that he's got two wingers either side of him, you don't have to go out on the wing today, lad. You can play number 9 up front in the box. And yeah, he was going missing. And I don't want to dig him out because he is a bright spark.
No, we're not digging him out. But what I'll say is that when Martial plays in the same position, he kind of does the same thing. So is this something they're being told to do? Or is that something they're reacting because the team just can't get the ball to the number 9? Or are they both not number 9s? Which one is it?
It's a good question. I don't know. I already don't know the answer of it.
Yeah. And like you say, Lukaku was a proper number 9, another brace tonight.
Yeah.
Matching Ronaldo's goal tally even after Ronaldo's hat-trick. So yeah. And again, we talk about progression, but I don't see how taking players out of the team who are going to benefit the team is progressive if you're not replacing them. I always say, look, sell players who are not going to have the right attitude going forward, but you can't gut a squad and expect all of the youth prospects to prosper. Because we know from history, Scott, we know from all these youngsters that have come through for the last 30 years, 40 years, that a very low percentage of youngsters make it.
Yeah.
We know that, don't we? You know, they come through. I mean, we could probably name 10 times the youngsters that we thought were going to make it because they burst onto the scene and didn't. So to expect such a large amount of youngsters to flourish at the same time, it's bordering on insanity.
It is, but it goes to show that it's what he's learned at Manchester United. When he moved to us in 1996, that was right around the time that we sold Mark Hughes, we sold Paul Ince, we sold Kanchelskis, and we started bringing in all these lads. And it was the most romantic thing that's ever happened to Manchester United in our generation, right?
Yeah, it is though, Scott. But when Cantona retired, did Fergie trust the youngsters, or did he sign a replacement or two?
Listen, I agree with that, but I think he's just trying to win as Fergie did. But as we've said, Fergie had so much more quality in the positions that he kept. And for us to try and make ourselves proud this season, playing Jesse Lingard as number 10, or playing the same back two time and time and time again, and using one of those centre-backs as a midfielder, let's be honest. Yeah. You got me really excited when we signed Harry Maguire, saying he's going to be banging in headers left, right and centre. Oh. That one at Arsenal, man, I could have saw that.
Oh my God. That's the other thing I honestly, you know what I think, Scott, with Harry Maguire, I think the big problem is we made him blooming captain.
Yeah.
We made him captain of the team after a few months, and now he's trying to show he is the leader of the team with the ball at his feet, and now he's holding onto the ball more and more to show he's the boss. And I think with the headers, he's trying too hard. He's just not being natural, right?
Yeah.
He's finding the position, but also I think, it's very hard. It's much harder to bury a header at the back post than it is at the front post, right?
Yeah.
Or the middle of the goal. If you've got a hard, lower ball coming at you, you can get much more contact. Whereas at the far post, you really need to manipulate that ball. So you really try and power it, and then sometimes you've got a bit of a magnet to the keeper, I suppose.
Have you seen the size of his head? Come on, man. Yeah. That's like hitting a ball with a cinder block.
No, I know. He hasn't scored for us yet.
Of course I know that.
It's unbelievable.
I know that. That's what I mean. We signed him, and you're saying I'm going to be putting a £5 on him every week. First goal. You must have lost £500 by now.
No, I haven't. I've had loads of weeks off. Don't worry, I've had loads of weeks off. I did have him for the Arsenal game. These odds are going up out of control.
Of course they are.
Yeah. But I'll get him in the end as well. I will make a profit. Don't worry about that.
I bet the same odds as David De Gea to score a goal.
Well, he's chucking him in. Can we have the big money for that or what?
I wish.
Honestly. So, look, I tell you what, the Wolves United game, the highlight of the game, if you can believe it, was Sergio Romero, wasn't it? I mean, that save was...
Yeah, that was a save.
Absolutely out of this world.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, ridiculous. And anyone... He moved his arm. That was a proper save. It really was.
honestly, with that performance in general, I think we've honestly got to be starting to look at what time he's going to be our number one, and maybe David De Gea isn't undroppable, because I would have preferred him in goal at Arsenal.
So, Scott, Ollie after the game said that Romero's performances are putting pressure on David De Gea. But we've talked about this back in...
Like, David De Gea's performances are putting pressure on David De Gea.
We talked about this, Scott. We talked about this before the Everton game when we lost 4-0 at Goodison Park. We discussed it and we said, now is the time for De Gea to be taken out of the firing line. Now is the time. And the problem is they persisted. And now we've got to the stage where it's worse. It's going to be worse dropping him now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he's had more bloopers. And instead of waking him up and saying, look, pal, you sign a new contract, it's not going to be all sweetness and light. What's happened is he signed the contract, and now I guess it's harder for Ollie to drop him because he signed him to a bumper deal and he has to explain that to the powers that be. But it should have happened before Everton, Scott. It should have happened then. The end of the season is a really lovely divide. You can come back to the new season and David can be our number one again. But it should have happened then, and Ollie wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, I don't think he's strong enough now either.
No.
I think that over the Christmas period, there were definitely a few times you could have given him a break.
Yep.
It's the kind of decision that it's very tough to take back, though, right? If you drop De Gea, put in Romero, and Romero starts playing well, it's very difficult to...
But what you're losing?
Well, you're not losing anything, are you? Yeah.
De Gea's chucking him in, mate.
Yeah.
He's chucking him in week after week. No, he is. He is. At the moment, you can't tell me that you're not more confident with Romero in goal than David De Gea.
Yeah, I think you're right. Dean Henderson's kept more clean sheets than David De Gea, and he plays for Sheffield United.
It boggles belief. Absolutely boggles belief. It really does. I mean, the worst part really was that Wolves seemed like that they were the ones going for the win, weren't they? They didn't want to replay.
VAR to the rescue.
Oh God, yeah. Let's pick into VAR. What did you make of the penalty appeal from Brandon Williams?
Yeah, I think you got to say that was a penalty, right?
You know what, Scott? I know I am biased, obviously. In terms of red tinted glasses, but I would say Williams and the Wolves defender moved their feet at the same time, right? Williams has won the ball through the Wolves defender's legs, and then he's got clattered. Now, in my experience of watching football, if you win the ball through someone's legs, you concede the foul.
Yeah,
that's what happens, right? If you poke the ball and you're effectively fouled in inverted commas if you want, your foot's gone into the back of their leg, so they're the ones stopping you, if you like.
Yeah.
But really, they've dominated the position there. They've won the position. I didn't think it was a penalty. I really didn't.
Oh, that's fair.
And I would give everything for United, you know that. I just didn't think it was a penalty. I mean, the thing with VAR, right, is that very, very soon, split second, right, you think this is good, this is bad. And I thought, there's no way he's going to give it. That's what I thought.
Oh, no, I didn't think he was going to give it.
How do you think Williams did against Adama Traore? Obviously, a little bit of a test for him. I must say, with such a blooming boring game, why didn't Ollie give us the heavyweight battle? Shaw v Traore. That would have been fantastic, wouldn't it? Come on, I was looking forward to that.
Joshua against Ruiz, part 3.
Which one's which? How do you think he did?
I think he did pretty well. I think you got to say Traore is one of the biggest, most direct, quickest players in the league.
He's pretty loose, isn't he? To be fair, but
he did pretty well. Yeah, he did. I think Brandon Williams did pretty well. I think he was offering some fantastic runs going forward as well. You just couldn't pick him out. Yeah. There was one moment he was in probably 40 yards of space, and obviously no one could find him.
No. I think Brandon Williams' attitude is fantastic. I think he is. Unfortunately, I think Brandon would be one of those players in the Fergie era who would just be perfectly just put in, dragged out, put in, pulled out. And as the time goes by, he just cements himself as a proper United player. Unfortunately for the guy, he's going to be our first choice soon. Yeah. And like we've seen with other players, once you're a regular for United, the pressure goes up. And I do worry that we're burning these youngsters, I think. I think we're putting them in a position where we rely on them too much. And then, I mean, I see the same thing really happening with Danny James at the moment. We said at the start of the season he shouldn't be our marquee signing attack-wise. He should be the second or third guy, the guy who's going to come good in next season or the season after. And it just seems that this strategy of pushing the young players before they're, making them run before they're ready to walk, what's going to happen? They're going to fall over, right?
Yeah.
He tried to win the changes. Mata and James came off for Fred and Rashford. The 70th minute almost resulted in a goal straight away from Marcus, right?
Yeah.
But after that, on foot, it was an impact and then nothing. What worried me more, Scott, was on the 82nd minute when Tahith Chong came off and Delo replaced him. And you got Angel Gomez sitting on the bench. Contracts run out 6 days ago, effectively. I know it runs out in the summer, but he can speak to continental clubs now.
And he is.
And we're not bringing him on. So to me, that says that Gomez is done. We burnt him too.
Yep. Another one, high hopes for 4 or 5 years now. And just the fact that we don't have a good enough first team to be able to blood these youngsters into is ruining them.
But then also, Scott, you said to me, we're playing a formation where the number 10 is so important.
Yeah.
He's the most creative number 10 in the club.
Yep.
It's just insanity.
Almost come to my wit's end with Jesse Lingard after that game. And he managed to push it over the edge by hiring Mino Raiola as his new agent. So pretty sure he's fixing for a way out.
Yeah.
What did you make of us offering 45 million and Jesse Lingard to Leicester for James Maddison? Might as well have just offered 45, no?
I don't know. I mean, even our transfer business now, it just seems all smoke and mirrors, Scott, to me. I mean, even the people we're being linked to now. Let's finish off with this FA Cup game and then we'll move on to the City game and the transfers and we'll dig into them.
Yeah, okay.
Just, like I say, Wolves at the end looked like they were the ones going for it. We've got a replay now at Old Trafford.
Yep, great.
Ole, after the game, he said, we got loads of games. We might as well have one more anyway.
Unbelievable.
I mean, what are you talking about?
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I mean, that's mental, isn't it? It's ridiculous. We had 9 games in 28 in December. We might as well have loads in January too, even though the players are knackered. But they're not too knackered for the next game, apparently. It's been a really, really bad week. Look, the FA Cup draw is out for the next round. Unfortunately, we've got Watford or Tranmere away if we get past Wolves. So we can just go to the other team that plays in blooming yellow and cause us all blooming kinds of problems all the time. Is Troy Deeney going to score a penalty again?
I would have thought so, yeah.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Did you hear Ollie blaming the FA for the hot and cold balls?
For the what balls?
For the hot and cold balls as to why we drew Wolves the last round.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, he blamed the FA for that. I mean, he was joking. He said, I blame the FA for the hot and cold balls that we've drawn Wolves. I mean, are Manchester United scared of Wolves now these days, are we? Is that a hard tie? I mean, come off it.
And Watford.
Yeah, exactly. Statistics for the Wolves game. Again, we dominated, didn't we? Of course, we didn't win. So 51%, 49. 12 shots on goal each. 2 shots on goal for Wolves. 0 shots on goal for Manchester United.
Yep, shocker.
I mean, an absolute shocker, Scott. I mean, what? Yeah. It's an FA Cup tie. It's not a league tie. It's not like it's not like we've stolen a good point.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good point. I know you said it was, but it wasn't. that last, it wasn't. But 0 shots on target. What's going on? It's beyond that. That's beyond belief, isn't it?
No, no, it's not. It's not. I believe it. We've had Champions League games with no shots on target. It's amazing you're not used to it.
But it's okay because Ollie said that Rashford's shot that got deflected onto the bar was close. So when he was asked, we got 0 shots on target. What do you think? He said, well, yeah, when it was close, wasn't it? I mean, Rashford's almost went in. Oh, well, that's all right then. No problems. Forget about the rest of the 90 minutes.
Wait, does that mean that we're through to the next round because we got close?
Well, exactly, yeah.
No,
it means we've got another game at Old Trafford. Oh. It means we've got a replay, and it's exactly what we don't need, right?
Yeah.
We've already got games coming left, right, and centre. And we've got a depleted squad.
We got what?
Depleted squad.
Yeah, we do. So another game should be able to cure that, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I don't understand is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's not as though he's a defender or he's a goalkeeper. He's an out and out. He's one of the most predatory strikers there ever has been. And how can he not see that there isn't enough service? How can he see? Well, if I was playing in this team, I wouldn't have a shot on goal either because there's no one passing the ball. There's no one pulling the strings.
I mean, yeah. What does he think? Like you say, he is a massively attacking player. Always was.
Yeah.
He must be able to see that this is not working.
Yeah. And again, you can understand it coming from a coach who was a defender all his life or something like that, right? But
yeah.
Has Ollie forgotten how to score a goal? And, the number one thing you need to score a goal is the ball, right? And the fact that we had so few touches in the opposition half, let alone box, it boggles the mind, as you like to say.
Yeah, we have such a slow build up, don't we? It's such a slow build up from the back.
Against Arsenal, when it was like taking 20, 30 passes to get out at half.
They were having a laugh, mate. They were sitting right back. They were doing exactly what I would do. If I lined up against United, it was so easy. It's just so easy. Let the boys at the back have the ball. When I draw out the team, the lineup before the podcast. And it's funny today, I laughed at myself because I started putting the fullbacks behind the centre-backs. And I wasn't doing it on purpose. But it's true. It's blooming true. The centre-backs, at the end of the Wolves game, the only 2 times that we tried anything was Lindelof had a dribble and Maguire had a dribble. Mm-hmm. It's just mental stuff. Mm-hmm. Look, Wan-Bissaka, sure, they can have the ball all day long as far as the opposition are concerned. It's no threat whatsoever. We allow teams 30, 45 seconds to get right back in their structure, get right back in their formation. And of course, without a squad full of world-class game breakers, you're not going to break down low blocks like that. You're just not.
Especially given it's exactly the way we've been playing for the last 3 months as well. It's so easy to predict.
Yeah, it is. But we move on to City tomorrow. They travel to Old Trafford. Now, one thing you have to say about this United team is just when you think that they are up whatever creek without a paddle, they bounce back and do something you don't expect. Are we going to see another performance against City where we tactically sort them out? Or is Pep Guardiola going to wake up here and go, look, if we just change our tactics a little bit, United are there for the taking?
Unfortunately, I think the latter is going to happen. With them being 14 points behind in the league title, in the league race, whatever it is, they're going to concentrate on the cups and probably pretty furious that they got beat by us a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And they're probably going to come out and give us a good hiding, TC.
Do you think so?
Yeah, and then the second leg, probably going to play a bunch of kids, and we're going to get beat as well.
Yeah,
that's how I see it going at the moment.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Scott, in football, and you just triggered something in my mind there because obviously Liverpool beat Everton 1-0 with a load of kids that they played. Their academy is not lauded around the world as one of the best or whatever, but winning allows youngsters to flourish, doesn't it? Winning allows youngsters to come in and add to that momentum you've already got. And one thing I will say is you could see Liverpool against Everton. You could see the youngsters. They were all trained the same way as the first team was. They all had the same tactical knowledge that the first team did. With United, it is not like that. No. We don't have that structure. We don't have that style of play running through the club. And I do find it bizarre, this narrative that we've got in terms of that we've got to follow this structure, that we've got to bring in the youth, we've got to follow the United way. When you look, like I say, you just look across to our bitterest, deadliest rivals, Liverpool, it's quite obvious, success allows youngsters to flourish.
Yeah, and if I was honest, I'd probably say the under-23s play better football than the first team now anyway.
Yeah, they probably do. They probably do. So look, Scott, you got a man of the match for me for the Wolves game or not?
I'll give my boy Brandon Williams.
Yeah? I go Sergio Romero, right. The only world-class moment for a long time. Yeah,
all right.
Unfortunately. So we got a few transfer rumours coming out. With a very weird one now. We got Harry Winks as being linked. David Ornstein came out with this one, and he's a reliable source in general when it comes to United. People are saying that City and United are in for Harry Winks, but it seems a bit of a bizarre transfer to me. Of course, I mean, it fits into the narrative, doesn't it, of us signing anyone who's British. What do you think of Harry Winks? I mean, to me, that seems a bizarre signing with all the options in the world in midfield. We go there.
I'll be honest, it actually makes a bit of sense for me. I don't see him being a Mourinho type midfielder. Mm-hmm. And if we can use Matic as a way to get in, that could be good. I'd swap him for Nemanja Matic.
Oh, me too. Yeah, don't worry about that. 100%, I'd do that. I just guess that with Winks, we're going to do the same thing as we've done with Maguire and Wan-Bissaka and pay about 20 million more than we should be paying for a player who is not one of the top players.
Yeah, probably.
That's the problem I have with that one. Bruno Fernandes is popping back up again now, Scott. So I tell you what, one thing that will make, I really desperately want a January signing or 2 or 3. But one thing that will make me absolutely furious is if Ole signs Bruno Fernandes this January.
Yeah.
Because then he can go back and he can explain why he told us that the right players weren't available last summer. Because we all know that Bruno Fernandes was available, right?
Yeah, I love that. At the end of the summer, we were saying there's no truth to the rumours that we were in for him. We didn't want him. It was all just paper talk, blah, blah, blah. And the headline is United back in for Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, and you got blooming Dybala.
Honestly,
He's playing fantastically for Juventus every week. People didn't want him. Oh, no, we don't want him. And we're playing blooming. It's insanity, Scott.
Yeah, you know what, though? I'm going to be furious if we don't sign anyone this window, because all we heard was you got to give Ollie a few windows. You got to give him at least 3 windows for him to be able to put his mark on the team. And then we get to a window and they're like, yeah, there's just not good deals on in the market. And don't give me that rubbish. I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but we signed Man Utd, we signed Patrice Evra, both in January. And don't tell me that you can't go and throw an extra £5-10 million at a team, or £10-20 million, whatever it is, and get the player now.
Yeah, and don't talk to me about United aren't there for quick fixes. We got Henrik Larsson in January because we needed him.
Yeah.
We got Louis Saha in January because we needed him. And
Alexis Sanchez.
Don't start with that, Scott.
I bet that is hindering some of our decision making as to whether we should pull the trigger in January. Is the last time we did it, it was so awful that we're still paying for it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Scott, the big problems I've got is this nonsense, these narratives that are being fed to us, and they're so obviously nonsense. Woodward says it's really hard to get 3 players in one window, doesn't he? He says it's so tricky.
Yep.
Now, Real Madrid, what are they? They're going toe-to-toe with Barcelona at the top of the league this season, aren't they?
Yeah.
And last season, they didn't have such a good season at all.
Yep.
They thought they needed a bit of a rebuild. So what did they do? They went out and spent 300 million on 5 players. So that's an average of 60 million per player.
I wish they spent 400 on 6.
Yeah, me too. So they brought those players in, 5 players, and their team is considerably better than it was before. They also brought James Rodriguez back from his loan spell as well. So if you're talking about 5 players, that's 6 players that they brought in. They also kept Bale, and Bale didn't want to leave. Sorry, Bale did want to leave. So this is nonsense. I'm sorry, it's just nonsense that a team cannot bring in 5 players in a transfer window, and also that a team can't improve with 5 players. It takes too long. There's too many, they can't fit into the team. It's nonsense, Scott.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the worst thing is, the last most successful window we had was 2016? We brought in 4 players. We brought Bailly, Zlatan, Mkhitaryan, Pogba.
Yes.
And we did 20 points better than we did the season before. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me that it doesn't work. You just got to bring in the right players.
Exactly. And you know what, Scott? The thing is at the moment is to me, in life, if you keep on looking back, you're not going to do so well. You have to have a balance. You have to have a balance of your experience from the past, but you also have to be looking to the future. And actually, the Pogba transfer does shine out as an example of exactly why we're going down the wrong line. Our world record signing was a blast from the past, wasn't it? It was us trying to resurrect a mistake that we thought we had made. We spent 85 million quid. We made him the most expensive player in the world when we knew that Fergie thought that he was a bad egg. We knew, but we were trying to rewrite history. We're trying to say, look, if there's a player that can save us, it's a player with United running through his blood. Now, just because he played in our youth team, does Paul Pogba have United running through our blood? I'll tell you right now, he bloody doesn't.
I think if he did, he wouldn't have left in the first place.
Oh, there you go. Right? Exactly, Scott.
Simple to say. I think if anything, it was Woodward trying to put his mark on the club and say, I'm not going to listen to what Fergie says. I'm going to put my own stamp on it, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And
you'd think that Woodward would actually enjoy doing negotiations and being able to spend other people's money and make himself the biggest man at the table. And it seems like every January he goes on holiday.
Well, yeah. And like I say, the narrative that we get where they say that the window's so short, it's almost like you can't get deals done outside the window. I know we keep on talking about Minamino started for Liverpool, didn't he, against Everton? Looked great as well. He was signed before Christmas, wasn't he? I think, or just after Christmas.
He was, yeah.
That's outside the transfer window. But look, we're already in the 6th of January, and there's no real noise coming from Ollie or anyone that we're going to sign anyone. And the squad is threadbare, Scott. It is. We're running on empty. The players are looking tired. We've got a massive January, an extra game now. And it just seems that they're quite content to just pootle along.
That's what I mean. We've been waiting for Ole to be able to express himself in a window and put his own mark on the club. And then as soon as we get here, we're like, yeah, there's nothing really out there. There's no real deals. It's so half-assed, isn't it?
It is, and Ollie's line that we're looking for the right player, and he always says it with a little smile, as if he knows something we don't. But that's great, looking for the right player. That's fine. But how far do we go with that narrative? Like how much can we gut a squad and not replace them and wait for the perfect replacement? I mean, look, Luis Suarez is not at Liverpool anymore. Coutinho is not at Liverpool anymore. Philippe Coutinho is not at Liverpool anymore. Now, Liverpool did not want to sell either of those players. It got forced upon them. But if Liverpool fans went back in time, would they say, we don't want to sign Suarez because his heart was never in the club? We don't want to sign Coutinho because his heart was never in the club. No, they were portals to a different time. They were portals from going from a team that is not competing to a team that is competing. Yeah, sure, people got covetous eyes and took them away, but they still elevated Liverpool to a status that they did not have before. And it seems that we will not do that. We will not look at these players that may not be the perfect character, the perfect blooming... I mean, Suarez was biting people in Ajax, wasn't he, in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
But when you're in a situation where you're not the most attractive proposition, you have to get some of those players. And like I've said as well, Scott, Cantona was a bad egg before he came to United, in everyone's eyes. We made him a good egg. The culture of a club makes people a good egg or a bad egg. It's not you sign a good egg or a bad egg. It's the influence that you give them. And at the moment, I think our influence just lets people do whatever the blooming hell they want. And that's why we've got a load of bad eggs.
Yeah, you're probably right with that.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to compare us to Liverpool, but they have come from where we are now. And unfortunately, it looks like they're going to romp the title. So we do have to look across there.
At least we've got time to prepare for it, right? Yeah. At least we've got a few months to prepare for them winning the league. It's not as though they're going to win it on the last day and it's going to ruin everything up. But yeah. I do kind of like that we do have a bit of time to prepare for it because it's going to happen. Let's be honest.
You and me, beachy head, April.
with a tin of Starbucks.
Anyway, thanks for joining us again, Reds. Remember to subscribe, comment, like, and 5-star review. It really helps to grow the podcast. Let's hope we can turn City over again tomorrow. Thanks for joining me again, Scott.
Thank you, TC.
Cheerio, Reds.
Ta-da.